They're like, oh, what English are you in? I'm like, I'm in this class Val, and they're like, what's that? I'm like, we're writing a book. What high school student is going to write a book?
There's some great stories in the book.
I had no idea how we were going to tackle this.
I think you hear about kids that have problems or whatever, you hear about people coming from different areas, but nobody really acknowledges it.
Oh, this happened to me because, I'm black. This happened to me because I'm Arab. This happened to me because, I'm white.
You can be so close to someone, and then that makes you realize, if I'm close with this person and I still don't know all this stuff about them, think about how much stuff I don't know about just a stranger on the street.
In this huge classroom, there's also huge differences between us.
Drama and cliques and just craziness.
Hey, I might as well try it, and not really knowing what I was getting myself into.
Truthfully, at the beginning, I wanted to take it because they said there was going to be no test. So I was like, oh, senior year, no test, that sounds good for me.
They said, there probably is not going to be another chance like this. I was like, hey, life.
This class should be in every school. Everybody should have the history of the people in their school and their community.
Are they my age? How do I know them? Does my friend know them? And you focus more on who are they and what do they believe in and what do they have to go through to become the person that they are and to believe in what they believe in.
It was no surprise that when I first met Mary, it was our shared experience of growing up on the South Side that initially brought us together as friends. After all, we were both raised on hot dogs and firefly summers, underneath the roar of airplanes where we played until the streetlights went on. It didn't take long for us to realize that we also shared a love of all things artsy.
She had a way of, just who she was as a person every day that was something that had a very strong impact on people.
In the spring, she got really sick. She had an infection that kind of complicated things and was in and out of the hospital. And then in April, she passed away.
It was a horrible time, personally, just seeing everything that Mary was going through, seeing what her friends and colleagues were going through, seeing what the students were going through.
It was hard. It was hard to come back, and still as an English teacher, it's hard not to, we don't have meetings in her classroom anymore. That's where we used to hold all of our meetings. And she kind of owned that classroom, and it was decorated in her way, and it was creative and funky. And I think still years later, when I pass that classroom, it's still a little flash, a little memory every time you walk by.
And as principal, you feel that you have to help manage that, and kind of help them through. There were many amazing moments that happened during this very tragic experience, and students and staff came together and they talked about the experience. They talked about how they were feeling.
There was a sense of urgency about having these conversations. There was an understanding of just what really mattered, in the lives that we lead, what really mattered.
I especially saw it was really hard for the other teachers. And it was really hard for the students. And then it was kind of lovely the way they all come. The students all bonded and cried together and talked to each other, and mine grew, I think, maybe from that experience, tragic as though that may sound.
For a long time, we didn't say anything, and then she replied, "I'm really glad we are friends, that you took me here tonight, that you asked me to be part of directing the winter show with you. I'm having the best time." Me too. It's no surprise that a few years later, after the birth of my second son, as she sat across from me in my small dining room, bouncing Quinn up and down on her knee, his chubby cheeks turning pink, I would ask her to be his godmother. Her eyebrows raised, a slightly surprised look on her face, her smile wide. "I would be honored to be the godmother to this little bugger," she laughed, squeezing his arms into a bear hug.
Mary O'Garrick and I applied for a district grant, and our grant was called Writing in the Real World. And the point was to try and pull in writers, poets, different people that could come in, run workshops, speak with our students, to get them to see the value of writing outside of just a classroom. In the process of reaching out, we reached out to Voice of Witness of San Francisco, which is a nonprofit organization that publishes oral history narratives aimed at social justice. And Cliff from there, he's the educational director, like immediately that day responded.
But they had been in contact with me because they were very interested in storytelling, very interested in oral history and the possibilities, many of which we're discussing today. And they came to a workshop I did, and I met with them afterwards, and we started to plant the seeds for beginning a collaboration with Stagg.
There's something to be said for this, and there's something to be said for, and going back to that initial workshop, that when we're able to be this way, it's a good thing, and why can't we be this way all the time? It shouldn't take a tragedy.
What happens if there's not a tragedy and you're just reaching out to the everyday experience and trying to improve the human condition by caring about one another and listening and supporting.
The idea of empathy and the idea of making sure that, through telling stories, talking about who we are and what we truly kind of stand for as a high school, and a pretty big high school, could be a really special opportunity.
The human element is always there, and it also connects that relationship as well. But each kid's different, and each teacher is different, so the connection is always a little bit different, even if you're authentic to yourself. But it's powerful. The impact that our teachers can have and do have on our students is tremendous.
Up to that point, there was just a lot of adults sitting in a room thinking about what's best for students and saying, hey, let's ask them.
First prompt is, why you feel this kind of project is necessary?
And they were just like, so we're doing a project, and they kind of explained it, and they didn't really know where they were going to go with it either, so it was kind of just up in the air for everyone.
What would be your personal goals?
This in action, I understand the stories.
It was I don't know, just really unique, like nothing I had ever heard of before.
What are my concerns or fears about participating in a project like this?
I don't know what we really anticipated with that, because that was a very abstract concept, and it was hard to put that in reality almost.
But these are their own stories and their own words. So what we're really wanting to do is to put a human face. A lot of this work is about building our capacity and practice at being present with another human being and being a committed audience for that story. And literally with our organization, Voice of Witness, of bearing witness to someone else's experience and someone else's identity. And it's practicing listening, it's practicing empathic communication or compassionate communication, and a genuine, I always connect empathy and talking about practicing these skills, empathy and inquiry, which to me is an intense curiosity to learn about another human being. It's a silent activity, and what you're doing is you're going to be walking around from paper to paper and writing your ideas down on different pieces of paper, and even responding to other people's questions with another question. Okay, let's go for it. Silent activity, this is Chuck Talk.
I agreed with a lot of the issues that they recognized, and
you know, said that these things need to be fixed. How can we fix it?
And all the students got together and said, like, this is something that needs to be addressed. We all believe in the idea of addressing this. Like, this is what school should be. That was very powerful. That was very inspiring to move forward with the project at that point.
I think we need to work really hard in making sure that everyone knows what's going on, even if that means, you know, talking to people individually. I think that if we don't have like a knowledge about it around the school, it's going to make it really hard to really get our point across.
There will always be people that hate on it or people that don't agree with it, so it's coming into this 100% optimistic is going to destroy your hope and everything. So you should come in here very optimistic, but you should also understand that there are people that don't care. You should be optimistic but pessimistic at the same time somewhat.
That mindset that not everyone's going to go on board and we shouldn't give up on everyone. Like, our purpose is to spread the word and get everyone on. So the people that are pessimistic about this, like, we should try to change their minds about it, not just like let them go and make them think what they want to think.
One person keeps talking about it, then there might be two, then there might be like five, and then soon enough there's like a whole group of people and they all want to participate.
Like, to the whole student body, we talked a lot about not getting 100% buy-in, but like, what is the buy-in, and what did maybe the students talk about as like that thing that we are selling?
It's something that we need to start working on, because there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of sexism, there's a lot of homophobia and transphobia, and there's just a lot of bigotry in
But
general.
I think we have to also make sure we're not becoming another like social action or social awareness club, because we already have those in place, and I think we need to like not separate ourselves, but like we need to stay on the same boundary, but not just make like social action like another club for it, because then we're like defeating our purpose, I guess, you know.
Even just randomly taking out a group of students at lunch and then talking to them about this, and then like another, like people at lunch would be like, what's going on? Why are the people going? And you know.
I would say that it's important that it's not, that the adults stay away from that initial conversation.
So we can get like new kids to speak to each other.
Okay.
Yeah. Reach out to each other.
Right. I mean, is that right? Is somehow the adults have to keep a distance if you want to.
It's not that we don't like you guys. It's just like... And so you can't just make people do something because you're not going to get. We're really going for empathy and authenticity, and you're not going to get authenticity if you're being forced into something.
What you guys are saying is that if you want honesty and truth, don't grade me on it.
Right. Don't judge.
So glad you're here in high school, guys.
Yes.
You know, because that's all it is grades and tests. And if you want honesty, don't grade us on it. That's telling us something. That really is telling us something.
Here we are, like, taking the system down.
We did talk about the authenticity, and in order to kind of keep it real and authentic and genuine, that there's a lot that we'll have to think about and obstacles that we might have to work with. But
Boy, it's a lot easier to do that when it's when everybody around you is kind of on the same page with that sort of empathy and feeling like, hey, here's a person who might need a hand with something, I can help them out. You know, I can kind of sense that something's going on. So, you know, those are some of the quick things that I took from this, is that I'm excited to hear some of the goals are pretty darn simple.
The same exact concerns, fears. You guys are talking about buy-in. We were talking about buy-in. The question, you know, you guys brought up, well, does it have to be 100%? Does it have to be everyone buying into it? We had that exact same conversation. The students working towards this common goal, having all of the conversations about stories and the power of stories, learning to interview, learning to ask questions, learning to be non-judgmental, and then listening, you know, all the listening skills that go along with that, and then compiling it into, putting that all together into a story to really hear someone else's story. Just that process in it is a success, regardless of if the book even published.
Again, the synthesis, talking about this is huge, this is amazing, we want to do this, but it has the potential to be really big and unwieldy, and there are no bite-sized chunks here that we can begin working on.
Like, what happened that day was just awesome. They did so much with talking about oral history, but so much of it was getting all of us to interact and interview. So like students interviewed teachers, and teachers talk to students that they wouldn't normally talk to. Students talk to other students they wouldn't normally talk to, and in talking about sort of like the goals of Voice of Witness and oral history, and then that interaction, kids were like super pumped about.
We're not going to get 100% of people. We should still go for it, no matter how many people we're able to get on this, and to see where it takes us.
Are we looking for a complete transformation, or are we looking for the start of a process to improve things? And I think someone talked about the desire to make empathy, I wrote it down, to make it the norm, to really, that being a workable and feasible objective, to try to make that the norm. Thank you. Given the shape of this project, hearing stories, telling stories, what can that accomplish, and how can that process have an impact?
I really wasn't entirely sure if it was needed. I mean, a lot of schools throughout the years have not used this project, and 9 times out of 10 students turn out fine. I mean, there's definitely different stories that need to be heard and whatnot, but compared to high rises and people in Palestine and different books, I think our problem is very minuscule.
So I feel that one of our big concerns and why kind of this project is necessary is to kind of attack that crowd that may not see the same way we do.
Like, I mean, I get the whole, definitely what you're saying. I totally understand that, but I feel like this is maybe 20, 30 kids you guys picked out of 400. Who's to say they'll all swing our way?
You raised that very point, how to get beyond preaching to the choir, as a metaphor, how to make this a project that's as inclusive as possible. Is that success? Is that necessary?
I think the conversations we had today were very important, because I think everybody wants to participate in this process. People want to share stories. People would like to interview someone. People want to jump in with that right away. But you quickly learn in planning that and thinking about it, there are a lot of things to discuss and a lot of things to consider. And you have to be very mindful, because when people say, oh, there's power in stories and there's power in storytelling, you quickly learn what that power is when you begin to discuss some of the variables and some of the parameters of what it means to listen to someone's story, or what it means for somebody to share a story, which could be challenging, because a story, we make ourselves vulnerable when we share.
Well, I feel like no matter where you go or what you do, racism or homophobia or sexism will never go away no matter what you do. But there's a point where people might still be racist, but they'll understand that they can't do anything about the people that are in the country or people speaking different languages around them.
I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, because this is obviously just starting up, so I'm not going to put a huge goal out by the end of this year or the next year. So I would hope that we would set a basis for the classes after us, because most of the seniors are leaving this year. If to continue and to make more of this committee, either make it bigger or more effective and reach out to more people and help, especially the older kids in the school, to help the people that are still coming in, like the freshmen and sophomores, so that they can learn that people care about the way things are between other people.
Well, someone actually put there's a lack of respect, and I think we should start respecting each other, because one day everyone in this room is going to be changing the world for the good or the bad. We're going to be running this country when we're older. We need to start respecting each other.
Empathy is something one practices, and I would say we probably all fall short at different points.
There's a lot of different ways to look at empathy, and people look at empathy related to compassion or sympathy or even apathy. And somebody today mentioned, well, it's, apathy and empathy, there's a, root connecting those two things. But I think that for me, the idea of empathy is building the capacity to connect with another human being, to connect with someone whose life experience maybe completely differs from your own, and finding connection and finding identification.
From my personal experience, I've lived overseas in a third world country, and before I went there, I used to have mixed opinions about the type of people that live there, but once I lived there, I started to understand that not everyone is like you. There's different people. There's poorer, there's richer, there's smarter, there's less intelligent. But you all have to understand that a human is a human, or a human is the way he is, not because he chose that way, but because he experienced things that made him that way, or to what he or she is now.
It's when you have so many students coming from so many different places, with so many different backgrounds, you have to be really focused on your message and how is it going to reach all of these different types of people, because empathy means different things to different people. And so, their goal, these students in particular, their goal is how do you begin to foster an entire community that cares about one another and who values people's backgrounds, their differences, their similarities, and really starting to connect to make just a better place.
And does that feel doable? Does that feel reachable?
You gotta have a lot of dedicated people.
You're talking about nines.
You were talking about nines?
Yeah, I didn't get any nines.
I know. Any questions? You feel okay?
Yeah, I feel pretty. All right. So just...
Yeah, you good?
Yep.
Go ahead.
It really exceeded our expectations. Lots of new ideas, lots of student ideas really have driven this whole process. And through several meetings and working with the students, became very, very clear that the students felt there was a need for something like this, both individually but also for the larger Stagg community, that being able to tell their stories was important.
How's it going?
Good, how about you?
Good.
I think the key to moving forward is, number one, is really establishing trust with students and having Chris Wendelin and Lisa Thayer being the teachers that are really heading this up. I can't think of two better people who are more student-centered and who are very, very sensitive to students' needs, to their emotional needs, and really what's needed to tell a good story and how to create a safe environment for that to happen.
Like stuff that's...
Or Google Doc, buddy. Google Doc.
we had devices to keep track of all this.
We can all edit the document.
I think we were both pretty surprised by it. We had a parent meeting because obviously this is a new class. It's like we're kind of bending things to make the class fit into where it is. And one of the concerns from some parents was we're going to take these, students that could be taking senior AP and you get an honors point in your GPA and they're not going to have that, and are they going to, what is the sort of the benefit for taking a chance with this class? And so we came into that meeting very prepared to make an argument and try to convince them and be as persuasive as possible, and assuming we'd be met with all this resistance. And yeah, there were some skeptical voices in the crowd, but overwhelmingly parents loved it. And this one particular dad, he's like, I have a question. He's like, what do you need from me? What can I do to help you with this? I want to help you. This is a great project. I want to be a part of this. And, what they could contribute. So for us, like a piece of a class, planning it where you can have these opportunities for maybe parents to weigh in different ways is it's pretty cool.
Can they get an F on their life story?
Do I have to say this on camera? No, their story will not. No, as we said before, I think we do have a responsibility as English teachers to create a class that isn't just let's all sit around and talk about our stories.
Right.
I don't know, I don't think that would be doing the class justice either. I mean, the subject matter. I mean, we have an opportunity to teach like interview skills or editing. These are things that are really interesting concepts within the subject of English. So the story won't, but the production of the story can definitely be criticized.
Right, critiqued in
any way that we could.
Right. Well, and they're publishing a product. I mean, and if we, part of our work right now that we're trying to figure out is to get a publisher and to start working with them. And so, I guess if you don't meet a deadline or, we're not going to put something in this final product that isn't our best work as far as maybe editing goes or things like that. I think the story, it's not so much the story. We could never judge that on any kind of criteria, but
just that element of, in a way, you know, if you want a real world experience, just as you would be in a job if you're trying to produce something, you know.
I've been excited about it.
I'm excited.
I just
No, I
didn't know, like, day one, everyone comes in.
Yeah, like, what are we
and
saying?
they're looking around, like, how do we frame this?
Yeah.
But I like to be totally just say, like, I'm doing this, but what I'm saying is, like, give them the chance to, like,
you guys tell
I
us.
think them doing an interview and hearing someone else's story within the first 45 minutes of being in this class is extremely valuable.
Mhm.
And I think before we talk about our syllabus, we ask them what's their syllabus is.
I'll just make a little PowerPoint with these questions.
One last thing that this is like kind of random before, but I think we really emphasize the first day that, like, their input into the class is crucial.
Yeah.
Like, we have this plan, but there are things that things that they will add to it and ideas that they have that will make it what it will become.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And, like, we don't know, and we really can't know because we're old and out of touch, but, like, how effectively how a cool part of a story could get shared.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah.
We're like, oh, let's put it on MySpace.
I'll put it on
And
the
they're
Twitter.
like, that doesn't exist anymore.
That was such a weird
No, but, like,
Originally it was like there was 2 teachers and it was going to be like we're split up in 2 classes and then sometimes we'll all come together and work together.
Welcome.
Immediately looked for somebody I knew. It's like you're put into a new setting or anything like that. The first thing you're going to do is probably judge the setting. It's like, okay, like what's going on here? Who am I dealing with?
Thanks for squeezing in. We won't always do this, but for the first couple days especially, we kind of want to be all together and get to know each other as a big group.
I'm not really the type of person who has a lot of friends. Like, I do talk to a lot of people, but I just don't involve myself as much. And, like, I can't just go up to someone I don't know and talk to them.
I think we're going to be working in groups, and we want you to work with people that we don't want you to stay in the same 4 or 5 people that you know.
Oh, God. I had no idea what it was. I was like, there's 60 kids in here. Oh my gosh, how are we even gonna fit? Like, what are we doing?
Goal today is to get to know each other a little better and to maybe kind of practice what it would feel like to interview someone.
Yeah, I hovered to someone I knew. I mean, I know like probably 80% of the people in that class, so it wasn't really hard for me to hover to someone that I knew.
Ahmad, did I see Ahmad? Oh, there you are, hi.
It's kind of overwhelming having 60 people in one class, and so I just like naturally gravitated towards my friends and just kind of sat at the table with them.
Be honest with this, we want you to try and get to the first day and meet at least one new person. So, okay, we'll talk about this more, but what is something your partner seems to avoid talking about?
Do you have any brothers or sisters? I have 2 older sisters.
It was terrifying. It's a big class, and I'm an early graduate, so I'm graduating a whole year early, so I didn't know a lot of the kids in the class, and I mean, in a class with 59 seniors.
I really didn't think I was going to start crying.
Please stop.
Wow.
No. It's awful. Your first
okay.
day.
No, it's fine. No, you just think about all the things we missed out on.
Yeah.
And that hurts sometimes.
It was a lot to take in, and it was, no one knew what was going on.
In order to know people and make those connections, you have to find it within yourself to make the connections.
I mentioned that I was adopted, and when I first went to go live with my mom, that my grandma, because they're my family, but not like my mom, and she's not my biological grandmother, but she was one who told my mom to take me.
I don't want to say empathy because we use that word so much, but I think it's just to be able to talk, because I don't think we do that a lot anymore. You know, it's all like social media and reading what's in the social media and seeing what that's aiming for, and I think by doing this class, I'm hoping that people will just talk more and be more real.
going into this class, seeing all these people trying to come up to you and start talking to you, it kind of shook me up at first. I don't know, you never know who you're going to talk to and strike a chord with.
Sophomore and freshman year, I did travel soccer and basketball, and it was like a lot, so that's why I stopped.
I was just lost. Like I didn't understand like what we were doing, what it was about. And they were trying to explain, but they didn't really know what it was about either. So all of us were just kind of like there. Like, okay, this cool class, like, so what now?
A lot of other kids talked about being like a little bit apprehensive, but I kind of went into it like full gusto, you know what I mean? I was like really excited about it.
Like for you, I'm saying I would like to find out more about like, you know, the clashing of cultures between like you and your parents. Like,
Stagg is like my second home. I've been going to my dad's classroom since I was 2. He has the same classroom since I was 2 years old. So it's just like a place that I just feel like I can be myself and not have to portray myself as anything else.
Just know that we have a lot of support here. Not only are we here to support you guys, but we have like some pretty big guns over there that are excited for this to go on. We're gonna write a book. The book is gonna be a collection of interviews, of oral histories, and we'll get into what all that is later.
I guess after like the first week, we just kind of realized like, no, we're just gonna be a big class.
Have this book that kind of has all these different stories from people from this high school, from this community, from us even, that will hopefully help us relate a little bit better. And if we can relate to each other a little bit better, maybe we can be a little better to each other. And so really the larger goal is creating some kind of change for the better.
So I kind of thought that would be like a fun class. I didn't know that it was gonna like change my life as much as it did.
You're gonna hop into my arms.
Oh my god.
Okay, actually this arm's stronger, so go in this one, and then your legs go up in this one. Okay.
It's not gonna work.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay.
High school to me is...
I like high school, I do. I like the experiences that I've got to have in high school with making new friends and being a part of different clubs and now being a part of VOW. But there's so much drama, and I think I'm really seeing that now as my time in high school comes to an end and I'm moving out.
I've made a lot of memories and I've had a lot of fun too. And I don't know if I'd say it's the best 4 years of your life because there is things that happen that like suck, but I think it's a really important 4 years of your life.
It's like there's good times and bad times, but just I don't know, like I feel like when you're coming into high school, like freshman, sophomore year, you're just like, oh, like kind of scared. Don't want to like take the wrong step because you're like, how will this affect me? Like, what will people think of me?
It's not what I thought at all.
What did you think?
I thought it would be definitely like the movies. That you'd like walk in and there's like cheerleaders everywhere and like the jocks, but it's not like that at all here.
I'm gonna hand it over to some students. They're gonna kind of introduce themselves and roll the class, really kind of what you're gonna do, okay?
It's like a crucible. You're put in the situation and you try to figure out how you're going to survive. This isn't the real world because everything is so staged. There's only so much that you can do and there's only a specific outcome to different things. But to some degrees, it's good because it helps you to grow, and you have to learn how to deal with not nice people in the real world. You can't just pick a fight with them every single time someone, like you and a person don't agree. That's not productive, and it's not realistic.
Basically, we're writing a book that's like the whole class is revolved around this book that we're going to write, and its purpose is to just raise empathy in our community.
We're going to get a brief interview with you, just tell a story, whatever you want to say. And after the interview, we're also going to get a photo, just for like a nice little record. It doesn't have to be serious, but It can be funny or whatever if you want it to be. And also, there's a snack booth.
For me, it's a lot of work, to be honest. You're trying to move ahead in life. I mean, for other people, they just don't care, but for me, you know, I want to carve a path, make something of myself in the future. You know, if I ever have a family, make life easy for them.
I think it's the first time you become an adult. I'm going to be told everything I need to do, and I can do it and accomplish a lot. Yeah, and I know I've changed a lot. I've really grown out of my shell and actually participated in things and met people.
Depends on like what aspect you're talking about. Academically, I feel like it prepares you for college to get a degree and be whatever you want to be. But for me, it's been a lot more than that. My parents are here, and my brother's a freshman now this year, so Stagg is like my second home.
I'm gonna call up some seniors. Perfect. Courtney and John.
It's us too.
All right. All right. Where's my dynamic duo? Yeah, here.
I wouldn't have talked to him. I didn't even know him. I've never seen him before. And here we are, two people have no idea about each other, and then we got to know each other just over this class.
High school changes a lot of people. You gain friends, and you might lose some. But like in the end, you can really know who is your true friend and who is just gonna be there, you know.
Right.
But it's not a bad thing that you lose a friend. Maybe it's for the good or bad. You don't really know. But like. Yeah, you gain a lot more friends than you do than lose, I think.
And then when you get in the real world, like, people admire you for your accomplishments. How have you struggled maybe with that, with people that try to put you down because you're not doing what's cool?
Yeah, and like you're really only known if you do something what the popular kids do, you know? Like you don't really do something that that does you.
Some people are cool and some people are not cool. So
What's your definition of cool?
Personally, my definition of cool is someone that is able to accomplish great things and inspire others to do the same. The high school definition of cool is who parties all weekend and who can get super drunk without puking. Like that's high school cool. So
Are you over high school cool?
I am 110% over high school cool. I felt very fortunate that I had someone so willing to do that, because I feel like sometimes maybe the kids that are doing the interviewing forget that it's hard.
When you're in high school, your whole world is high school and what's going on in the high school, whether it's what's going on with you personally or what's going on with the person who's halfway down the hallway that you don't even really know. And I think that bothers me about high school a little bit, is that everybody is so in everyone else's business.
I think high school is not so much about high school, but it's more about like the age that you are while you're in high school, because it's like these 4 years are like kind of when you're really starting to figure yourself out and like figure out who you want to be, because everyone's like into different cliques and stuff, and that's really just you trying to figure out who you are as a person. And I feel high school's more about that than about like the actual high school experience. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like just discovering who you are and not so much like the school environment. Like that plays a part in it, but I feel like it's more centralized on you as a person.
Yeah, this is one of my better classes. You guys are phenomenal. Yeah.
Or is it just the...
Okay, I think that growth is the first word. I think, of course, the obvious physical growth kids go through, but social, emotional growth, intellectual growth, and being a teacher for 25 years, it's so fun to see kids as a freshman and then the same kid as a senior, and to see that growth. And I think that's what this time is for. You have junior high where you're so awkward, everybody is, and it's really hard to get through your day. And then high school comes, and there's a growth period that has to take place before you go into adulthood. And so I think that's the word that comes to my mind, is the word growth. I think that's what we're all here for.
You get everything. Friends, stress of school, stress of family life.
Alright, ladies! You're weird. Does everybody know what your workouts are?
Yeah, because I think kids just are so like they're just completely unaware of, you know, someone who has a parent at home that's extremely ill, and that's why they're tired in class because they have to work because their parent can't work, you know, something like that. And I don't think kids who are high school kids, and sometimes even teachers, don't even recognize, you know, the situations that each individual student is in. You know, they're in their world and they think everybody should be this certain way, but no one's lives are the same.
There's a lot of different people in this room. There's a lot of different social groups in this room. And I have my friends, but I would never talk to these people. And so that was like very much a thing of, we want to find different ways and in a more serious way to kind of bring them to a better understanding that there are differences and there are similarities, but there are things that all of us are here, and there are a lot of things that affect us that are kind of out of our control, and we need to know that. And
oh, that's the best part. Because each one of those kids, those are the mysteries, right? So at the beginning of the year, you have to gauge how you're going to be able to bring that specific kid out of his or her shell. Because the extroverts, a dime a dozen. The introverts are introverted in their own way.
Hello.
And I don't know what happens in the hallways or the lunchroom, but at least in my classroom, I can see definite growth in each one of those kids by the end of the year, because the classroom becomes like a family, which is nice. And that's the goal. I mean, to make the classroom feel like a safe family kind of place.
The reason why people fear being judged is because they obviously know the pain of being judged.
Okay.
So Nia, walk this way with your whole line. So the line is now this way.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we're marching one by one. Hurrah!
Okay.
Hurrah!
Yes, can everyone hear me down there?
It was like right at the beginning of the year, and it was like the first thing we did all together, and I just thought it was so weird.
Yeah, that was weird. At first I didn't know what was going on because I didn't know any, like I said, I barely knew anyone.
Close your eyes and join hands with the person next to you. This is not an activity that is meant to embarrass anyone. This is not an activity that is meant to make anyone feel guilty.
You could have share some of the same values, but come from totally different backgrounds.
A lot of the people that I was lined up to were people that have like culturally diverse families.
Here we go.
It was like the first question they asked.
Have you ever had something negative posted about you on a social media site? Take one step back.
First, the two people I was holding hands with, they went back and I went forward, so we automatically like let go. And through like the whole entire process, I was just alone.
If your family owns the house in which you grew up, take one step forward.
It was different and a great icebreaker.
If you've ever felt uncomfortable about a joke directed at your gender, race, or sexual orientation, take one step back.
Knowing stuff that we went to school with these kids for 4 years and never knew something about them that we learned in this class. And it just created relationships and friendships that we never thought we would have.
It wasn't things we directly did, it was things that were from like our past or our parents that affect like who we are right now. And it's like parents that didn't go to college, or like you're staying in place, and I think it just shows like if you move forward, like it's easier for you to get ahead.
Both of your parents or guardians attended college, take one step forward.
I'm trying to keep that grip, and they're just moving back, and I'm moving forward. I'm like, my arms are gonna fall off if I keep going like this.
I felt them, like our eyes were closed, but I felt them, like we all moved up together, we all moved back together. It's like okay, but then there were some, like even my friends, they would move back and I would stay there. I was like, oh, I didn't know that about them.
Kind of looking past all of our preconceived ideas of who each other are. We just want to make connections with each other and be there for each other and create like a community.
Step forward. If you were sexually active and it would improve your reputation, take one step forward.
I'm like I don't want them to know my life. Like, this is like gossip. Like, people are gonna gossip about me. But I liked it. It definitely grew into something much bigger than a question mark.
You know, like, have you ever been ashamed of your house and like stuff like that? And it just kind of like makes you realize, like, that was our first kind of like wake up call, and I think that really kind of brought the class closer together.
You've ever tried to change your appearance, mannerisms, or behavior to avoid being judged or ridiculed? Take one step back.
I just found it interesting that I don't know them, and we stood by each other the entire time.
You know, I learned that I can have a lot in common with people, but I don't know them fully, and what the base view of what I knew about her isn't her.
A lot of what makes us who we are is not necessarily choice. There's a lot of things that, you know, we're subject to in our lives and our identities.
Beginning and end, I felt the sense of unitedness and just that we're all the same consciousness in different bodies.
Everything that you said, we would like move together, and I was not expecting that at all. So it was cool. It's like I have a friend who actually gets me.
What I'd like you all to do now is open your eyes. Take a minute to notice where you've moved. Take a minute to look at who's behind you, who's in front of you. We've moved from one solid line to different places. Take a minute to look around.
It's not like anyone has said, oh my God, they were so far in front of me, what's wrong with me? So it's a relating thing that it could have very well gone the exact opposite way, and everyone could have been like, wow, we're so different, but it was better that everyone related to each other.
Other reasons why you think we may have done this, or how this might benefit our larger kind of outlook?
You don't want people to find out that, okay, I'm embarrassed about what I have, even though it's not really my choice. And even when you move forward, you can still sense the people around you, the two people you're holding hands with, if they're moving forward or backward. And they can still sense if you're moving forward or backward. So they can still, you know, kind of remember, you know, this, oh, he's uncomfortable about one thing that he has or one thing he's experienced. And some people might not want to kind of share that with others, even if their eyes are closed.
But if we lived in a perfect world, there actually wouldn't be that fear, because people wouldn't be judging others for stuff they can't control.
The first step, you transcribed it, you listened to it. Your first task is to find the story. But before you can do that, you have to reconnect with the idea of, well, what makes a good story?
Some may say it's a risk. Some may say it's an outstanding risk that Mr. Olson and Ms. Thayer and Mr. Wendelin took.
You start to feel the emotions that they went through, and you feel almost as part, you feel like a part of their story.
Ooh. So it's when you feel a part of their story, when you feel some connection to that story, whether it's physical or whatever, when you feel a personal connection.
But I really, stepping back, I really see it as something that resulted in the perfect storm. It resulted in the perfect storm for our students. They had the opportunity to engage in authentic learning, and to see them be so excited about the class, about the book, about the learning that they were experiencing, and almost not even really realize that they were learning while they did it, was unbelievable, and really just an outstanding experience, and something that our teachers and the kids themselves should be so proud of.
Struggle, and you know, like any film or any book or any play, conflict, like struggle and conflict, and hopefully at that story arc, right? There's struggle and conflict and resolution, that somehow they overcome that struggle. It doesn't always happen, but thinking of like a story arc.
Why do they need this class? Because nobody talks to each other anymore. I ask my classes to write a journal every year about when is the last time you had a real conversation? So a conversation about ideas and not about people or about things. And it is stunning how many think to themselves for a long time, when, and come up with never. And they could go, arguably they could go the rest of their lives without having a real conversation. And this class is teaching them that that's something that is fun to talk about ideas.
Yeah, throughout this semester, I mean, I think thinking back to specific moments, I can feel changes in the dynamic of the class and what people were sharing, and how we interacted with students too, and how we viewed students. I mean, the more that we were reading things and learning about people that were sort of like indirectly learning about them. I mean, students wrote reflections about how they felt about other people's interviews, and they shared pieces of their life. And this is like 3 weeks ago, and I'm reading it and think, you know, and I think there were different things in the class that people experienced that opened them up and saw things, to seeing things differently and seeing their classmates differently.
Yeah, it was cool because, like, I mean, I'm friends with Stefan. I mean, he's not like, I'm not really close with him, so it was still like, I didn't know that much about him, but like, we never really talked about like where he came from and all this stuff, and it was just cool to like learn about him, and like, it was cool to have the conversation where like we both learned about each other. And I think that was probably the best part of the interview, is having the conversation, not really trying to get things for the book.
I view things differently. I view people differently. Teachers, staff, students, I read their stories. Like now I just walk in, like I would walk in the hallways and just smile at a person because I read their story.
Lots of different people that shared stories in this class that I would have never known, you know, they were going through. And just even reading the stories from the different kids at Stagg, it's just like, wow. You know, you would never thought this person was going through that.
As we're like reading and editing all these stories, I've read stories that are even of people who I consider my friends, and I've learned things that I never knew about them, or I read about a struggle that they had that I would have never guessed that they would have had or had gone through that in their past. And that it's not like the people's actions or like what they are on the surface, it's really like who they are on the inside that is the thing that's important. You know, there's a very diverse group of people out there, and when you look at somebody, you can't have that first impression. They've lived their life. They've gone through so many experiences, and the thing is, you can relate to probably a good portion of those experiences if you just talk with that person.
So how are you going to communicate their essence if it's somebody that, you know, most people haven't met before? Right? You have to kind of pull back and go, okay, I have to edit this and sort of, in a way, sometimes look at it as though I've never met this person either, and I'm just editing this story.
It's learning how to talk to people, and I've noticed that even when I talk to people now, it's like I'm more interested in what they're actually saying, and it's not just, well, how does this relate to me? But it's more of, well, how did that go for you? It's more about them and less about me now, I've noticed. Yeah, it's really good because, you know, that's how you connect with people. You listen to them, and I want to know about them now. I just don't want to know about like us. I want to know about them. I like learning about people, especially if I want to be a teacher. You know, you want to be interested in other people, and people are interesting.
Like, we're proud of you, Coach. I'm proud of you. Oh, hello. Hi.
So the books came.
They're like, well, look at the book.
Oh, is that
Should
what
we
that
just
is?
start talking?
Yeah.
All right, open up. Okay, guys. I'm tired.
I feel like you should also do this. Okay, ready?
Orangey. Orangey.
Very orange.
Look at their green. Stevie, you get him on. You get him on. I think.
is like our mentor in chemistry, so I really wanted to see him in this book.
Every single thing I've lived about that we worked on for
I know. I can't keep saying that.
Dude, this is my favorite page.
Go with us.
We're right there.
Right there.
We're right there. Me and you, Phil, all the way.
dinner with family. Bedtime, PJ school.
Yes, this is really awesome, and if we all just wrote this book and we all each got a copy, that would be cool. But there's going to be a lot of people outside of the class reading the work that you did and hearing stories for the first time, thinking about things in a new way. I mean, really, this is the end for us, and it's been a really long journey that we're looking back from. But everyone outside of this classroom is just about to learn about this. You know, and there's so much potential in that. It's very exciting to think, you know, there's people that haven't read Jaquan's story yet. There's people that haven't read certain stories.
Do the thing with your hands.
It's going to
Remember the thing with the hands?
It was so long ago. It's going to get
it's going to get bigger
and bigger.
It's going to go spread out.
I'm so excited because what I've been telling people, like I was telling Gabby, I've been telling everyone, like I'm writing a book at work. No one believes me. Everyone thinks I'm lying. So like when I go into work on like Saturday, I'm gonna be like, bam, I was not lying. So I'm so like happy that it's like real and like it's not like made up. I know it wasn't made up, but everyone thought that I was lying. So like now I can like prove myself like I was not lying. I promise. I'm so excited.
It's like something that, like you guys are saying, it's like almost on like a global scale now, and it's something bigger than like just Stagg. And the fact that we can make that available to like anybody who wants to read it or is like interested, that's like really cool because a lot of the stories in here, like even people in Stagg haven't heard, so now we can amplify it so other people who don't even know Stagg can hear them too. So.
I think that just got me really pumped for next year and the next file class because like they can do so much with this, and I'm so excited to see what they're gonna do. Probably like I don't know, it's so cool.
It feels so unreal that I was a part of this big project, and it's like now I feel like it's real. Like the book is in my hand.
Stories of triumph, growth, and struggle are like manifested into one thing. That's what's really like.
It's all in here.
I'm just trying to soak that up right now.
The purpose of our book is starting to become known, and that's just like a really like surreal experience. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like school right now.
Each person that takes the time to listen and be genuine to another helps frame the foundation for a more compassionate, optimistic, and healthy community. A distinct feature of 111th and Roberts is the inclusion of commentary from interviewers and an array of readers from Stagg. Interviewers share details about the circumstances and processes of their interviews. Respondents share points of intersection and what they have discovered in these pages, what makes them grateful, surprised, what is wholly familiar, what humbles them. These shared stories have already begun to resound. Dear reader, these stories are now yours for the listening.
What makes Stagg unique is its diversity. People tend to think of diversity in terms of race, yet Stagg is more than that.
That night, she looked me dead in the eyes and told me there was a part of her that wanted to be a writer, maybe a travel writer or a short story author. That the classes she was taking were doing more than schooling her teacherly education, they were sparking fire.
There are so many different socioeconomic statuses, religions, and ethnic groups.
I was 5 years old when the war broke out. I remember a lot. When the attack started, we all went to the third floor of our house to see what was happening. We saw the airplanes, the sky looked red, it was all the smoke.
For a social studies teacher, it's a perfect place to be. Social studies learning involves learning about other cultures and history. The less ignorant you are, the more empathetic you are.
He kept trying to talk, but he couldn't. I kept telling him to stop talking, that he's hurt really bad and that he needs to be quiet and relax. But he kept trying to talk. When we arrived at the hospital, he wasn't breathing. His heart wasn't beating. He died in my arms in the ambulance.
People have different starting points, different ending points, different beliefs, different experiences.
All of a sudden, I hear Bev let out this cry or scream of just horror, and I opened the door and she looked at me and told me that my dad was dead.
There's value in listening. There's value in sharing stories. There's value in multiple perspectives. There's value in creating experiences for seeing and being seen. There's value in attaching literacy and communication skills to empathy in a way that allows for connection, but also creates a safe space for acknowledging difference.
There are so many variables. I would say that the flash of empathy in the eyes is more valuable than any data point. The moments that are the most meaningful are the moments that cannot be measured.
It's not just having a vow class, you know, that's part of it, but like having other ways in which, whether it's classes or different opportunities where kids can have those chances to do these things that are going to make them people we want them to be, you know, the kind of people we need in our world, you know.
And I think we put a lot on ourselves to do something really, really, really special. There were so many unknowns that never got cleared up or validated, really. You know, I don't know if it ever really will, but it's done, so so there's no use worrying anymore, I guess. Being able to take an English class where they were the subject and their friends were the subject and people that they know were the subject. Yeah, I know that some students were drawn to it because we may have said at the beginning there weren't going to be tests and quizzes, and there hasn't been, but obviously some kids are like, I'm in. But the truth is that there wasn't time for it, and there wasn't any material to do that for. Like, it's not about that. It's about interactions with people. It's about getting this. It's about figuring out how we're going to write this thing.
Really, it's about the people you meet and the adventures you go on with them, and you can't really grade that. Like, yeah.
If this class were running 5 more times, I would tell every person, take it. Like, no, take it. It's so amazing, and Mrs. Thayer and Mr. Wendelin are so passionate, and it makes us passionate then to be able to be a part of this larger project.
Just going around, walking through it every day, I kind of like look at the world differently, like, hey, this class kind of taught me something about that. Like, I feel more empathy for people, I guess, so kind of just to like shape me into a better person.
A lot of kids are scared to branch out in high school, but I feel like that's, you know, kind of a time where it's most necessary.
Everything's new, so you have to just go with it. Let everything be new once, and then you get it down, and nothing's as scary as we think it is.
Focus on your school. Try not to get into all the drama, and socializing is good, but just try not to make it like your main focus of high school.
Never stop doing what you want to do, because if people tell you can't do something, you'll eventually, if they keep telling you to, you'll end up believing.
Take advantage of every opportunity you have and do it, and don't care what other people say or think, because it's about discovering who you are and not appeasing other people.
Give everybody a huge round of applause. Congratulations on graduating, everybody. Last day of Stagg High School. Congratulations.
This all started because of one simple word: yes. It obviously wasn't all this easy, and it wasn't always a road full of yeses. And yet, through even the hardest parts of our journey, here I think it was that first yes. Yeah, okay, Mayor, let's do this. Let's see what happens. That kept us all going.
The gown is the bag. Yeah, the gown is the bag. See?
After an entire year of working on this project, there are still uncertainties. Will people read it? Will it change perspectives, or even make any difference at all? In the midst of these uncertainties, we've learned 2 things for sure.
When you're working with oral histories and people's life stories and skills like curiosity, empathy, listening, and community development, you need to make friends with the unknown. Taking a risk and saying yes when the outcome is uncertain is a courageous act and a life skill that leads to big achievements.
This really isn't our book. This isn't even our class. As teachers, we knew from the beginning that if this class and project were going to be a success, it would have to be driven by the students, not by us or anybody else. And wow, did they ever take the wheel in the most wonderful and awe-inspiring ways.
The second thing, and by far the most profound, is that when students are given opportunities with high stakes and the freedom to figure things out, they can achieve amazing things. Not just amazing, rigorous learning things, but amazing humanistic, empathic things. Opportunity should not just be a special project or a once-in-a-while thing. Today, our senior students met with next year's VOW students and discussed curriculum development that will extend the lessons our students learned and make the book a tool for empathy and not just an end result. Proving once again that when you say yes to students, they will rise to the occasion and accomplish extraordinary things. We need to say yes to students more, not just in Stagg and not just in District 230, but everywhere.
Listening to them share such genuine and different insights not only reiterated the relevance of the class, but allowed us to finally step back for a moment from the flurry of work and day-to-day to-dos and truly appreciate the wonderfully mature, talented, and altruistic people we have become lucky enough to know. And we say people, not students, not teenagers, because sitting across the table from them and hearing things like, this class was a wake-up call to life, or that this class and the work we did transcended grades, or that even in the end, what was most important to them was not the book, but the stories, those captured and those still out there left unheard. Hearing that, there's just no way we can think of them in the same way that we used to see our students. They aren't our students, they're not our kids, they're not teenagers, they're listeners, writers, professionals. They're our teachers, they're people.
You guys did something very risky and very dangerous, and both things in a principal's realm normally is we say no to. And you guys took a risk, and you did some dangerous things with absolutely amazing results. And not only is this huge for our community, I know it was a big deal for all of you, but for me personally, it was a really big deal. So thank you for giving me this experience. You guys are all absolutely amazing, and you've left a legacy.
Tonight's graduation is special because we celebrate here. We have created lasting memories. We celebrate the class of 2016 who has notable achievements. You published a book entitled 111th and Roberts, where our stories intersect. Celebrating the stories of your classmates, your teachers, your staff, and alumni.
The class of 2016 saw the power of the story and did something quite amazing. They amplified it. The class of 2016 reached out to their classmates, teachers, mentors, community members, and committed to amplifying voices. Amplifying voices often lost in day-to-day experiences in high school. Class of 2016, you did something extraordinary. You wrote a book. But a book is only representative of what you as a class have accomplished. More powerful is your passion, your belief that by listening to others, you can not only connect with people who are different, but that you discover something yourself, that you indeed are not different. You are intertwined stories who for the past 4 years found a home at 111th and Roberts. I ask that you stand and participate in the time-honored tradition of moving the tassel on your graduation caps from the right side to the left side to signify the recognition of earning your high school diploma from Amos Alonzo Stagg High School.